Let's rewind the calendar to 10 months ago, landing on March 1st, 2024, when the Kings were preparing for a matchup in Minnesota against the top-seeded Timberwolves. Up to this moment, they had a defense that was considerably below average, ranked 20th, as they allowed nearly 118 points per 100 possessions. Thus, it was evident that their strong suit was offense. However, they were now faced with the challenge of taking on the league's best defense without their main scorer, De'Aaron Fox, who was dealing with a knee injury. In only his fourth NBA start, Keon Ellis stepped in for Fox, contributing 4 steals and a block in just 18 minutes of action. Meanwhile, Malik Monk took charge offensively, scoring 39 points and leading the team to a significant overtime victory. Following this game, Fox returned for a home contest against the struggling Bulls, but they fell short by 4 points. Interestingly, Keon Ellis did not see any time on the court in that game. It seemed that coach Mike Brown recognized that oversight. In the next game against the Lakers, Ellis played 14 minutes off the bench, contributing a plus 17 in a 10-point win. The subsequent night against the Spurs, he had an increased role with 17 minutes, finishing with a plus 15 in a narrow 2-point victory. Shortly after, on March 12th, with Keegan Murray sidelined due to an ankle tweak, Ellis once again seized the starting opportunity. He logged 27 minutes, racking up 3 steals and executing nearly perfect defense against Damian Lillard as the Kings dominated the Bucks by 35 points. The following evening, it was Kevin Huerter absent, which meant Ellis received his 3rd start of the month. This time, it was D'Angelo Russell who faced him, scoring only 6 points on 2 of 9 shots as the Kings emerged with a 13-point victory. Clearly, they were beginning to generate some momentum, and by this point, Ellis had performed well enough to secure his place in the rotation. On March 18, after Kevin Huerter suffered a season-ending injury, Keon Ellis stepped in as a full-time starter, and his influence on the team was undeniable. He had stand-up performances, including 8 3-pointers and 26 points on the road against OKC, and his exceptional defense in the play-in game rendered Steve Curry ineffective while achieving 3 steals and 3 blocks. However, it wasn't merely these highlights. His impact was consistently felt throughout the Kings. Remember when I mentioned they had the 20th-ranked defense prior to the March 1's game in Minnesota? Well, in the subsequent 24 games to end the season, they boasted the 4th best defense in the NBA, allowing fewer than 111 points per 100 possessions. Not only did he significantly contribute to their defensive transformation, but their offense also remained steady with his inclusion in the lineup. This is the kind of complementary player every team aspires to have, someone who possesses enough offensive skills to stay afloat or occasionally contribute positively while being a truly elite defender. So, when they brought in DeRozan during the offseason, it seemed inevitable that he would be the 5th starter, truly uniting that lineup. However, in this year's season opener against the Wolves, it quickly became apparent that wasn't the case. Kevin Huerter returned from injury, which meant he also returned to the starting lineup, while Ellis played just 11 minutes off the bench. It wasn't until the 5th game of the season that he earned his first start, but that was a one-time occurrence, and after 3 starts to finish November, he didn't start at all throughout December. He reached a point where he was nearly removed from the rotation entirely, having games in December where he logged merely 14, 13, 5, and even 2 minutes of playtime. It wasn't as if the Kings were doing well. They went 5-8 over that month, and by December 27, found themselves ranked 12th in the West with a record of 13-18. That evening, reports emerged that they were parting ways with Mike Brown, and it genuinely appeared that the Kings were on the verge of a total breakdown. While I can't definitively say whether Brown chose to limit Ellis's playing time, in the 7 games following the coaching change, he appeared in 5 of them while averaging close to 30 minutes per game, and naturally, they achieved a 6-1 record, culminating in a thrilling double overtime, where Ellis completely dominated defensively. We are now in Season 2, presenting undeniable proof that impactful moments occur when Keon Ellis is on the court. This raises the question, what is he doing to influence the game at such a significant level? It certainly begins with his defense for the Kings. His job is straightforward: defend the opposing team's top backcourt creator. Against the Warriors, that means following Steve through various off-ball screens, while against the Hawks, it involves matching up against Trae Young at the point of attack and striving to prevent the ball from reaching the paint. In matchups against the Wolves, he must utilize his footwork to stay in front of Anthony Edwards in isolation, preventing him from gaining that crucial first step on a drive. However, when offenses are centered around larger, more physical players, these are not the types of matchups where Ellis excels. This is due to his status as one of the lighter players in the NBA, weighing in at 175 lbs, giving him a slender physique that can be overpowered. I believe he particularly faced challenges against Devin Booker, who consistently took him to the mid-post and simply overpowered him. That's not to say he can't guard mid-post-ups, though. Edwards also attempted to exploit these areas on the court, but Ellis managed to disrupt him with active hands and solid footwork. I know I mentioned that he isn't physically tough. However, he possesses very long arms and quick hands, so when he's vigorously attacking the ball like this, any minor mistake by the offensive player will be exploited. That's why I wanted to concentrate on someone with a polished post-game like Booker, because when any standard wing turns their back to the basket, he actually does a fairly impressive job of stopping them from reaching their spots. It's not just in the post where that mix of length and quick hands is impactful. He's a menace all over the court. Just observe how his hands control this possession. Hero attempts to reject a screen with a crossover, but when Ellis extends an arm, he chooses to retreat and drive left. That doesn't result in anything, so he resets the play at the top, only for Ellis to closely follow, swipe at the ball, and keep chasing until he secures a steal. Even against a player like Shea, who almost never loses the ball, nobody is safe dribbling around Ellis. This is a major reason he stands fifth in the NBA, averaging nearly 2.5 steals every 75 possessions. While his hands are excellent, his true defensive strength lies in his exceptional lateral quickness. His slender physique grants him incredible agility, making it seem like offensive players rarely get a step on him. Even someone as challenging to contain as Tyrese Maxey has difficulties getting past Keon's side. However, his slim frame has its downsides. While he can hinder almost every drive, some players manage to push him off balance and create space. Despite this, he possesses two significant advantages. First, his recovery speed is astonishing, allowing him to regain position and contest shots after being bumped. Second, his fast hands enable him to swipe at the ball and force turnovers when it becomes exposed. Essentially, against most perimeter-oriented wings, he's a formidable menace in isolation. When his opponent attempts to lose him with a screen, he can glide right through it as if it weren't there, adhering to his matchup like superglue. This is another advantage of his lean frame, allowing him to slip over screens without physical contact, while maintaining the agility to keep up with drives. All the way to the rim, which implies he spends considerable time pursuing ball handlers either from behind or closely beside them, allowing him to nearly dictate their movements. One tactic you frequently see him employ when positioned alongside a ball handler is extending his long arm upward to obstruct potential passing angles. This not only complicates the pass to the roller, but also completely removes the option to pass to the corner. Consequently, he often forces many ball handlers into a mode focused solely on scoring. Hawks aims to deliver the ball to Bomb here, but Keon cuts off the angle, leaving no options, compelling him into a difficult shot. Besides closing off passing lanes, he can also affect a player's scoring ability in these situations due to his length and superb timing. Here's a solid instance against Austin Reeves. He follows him over a screen and ends up on his backside, but due to the threat he poses while pursuing from behind, Reeves is forced to adjust to an awkward, off-balance shot. Later in the same game, you'll notice Reeves sets up the pick and roll again, but this time Ellis gets hit hard by the screen. Reeves believes he has enough room for a floater, but it gets rejected. Now seems like a good moment to highlight that in addition to his steals, Ellis is averaging nearly 1.2 blocks per 75 possessions, ranking second among guards, just behind Derek White. When he's positioned at the point of attack, he's one of those players capable of accelerating the opposing offense, compelling ball handlers to navigate corners quickly and rush into the paint, especially when he's pursuing these players over screens. Another hallmark of Keon Ellis is his tendency to go under screens. This isn't unusual for a basketball defender against less skilled shooters, but his speed allows him to execute this more effectively than most. A risk of going under a screen is that some players might either turn the corner to exploit open areas or attempt to reject the screen. Keon's lateral quickness prevents him from losing those angles, though, and if he does occasionally get beat in those situations, he simply reverts to playing from the hip and controlling the possession. His proficiency in both going under and over screens has established him as an elite off-ball chaser. Take this play, for instance. He follows Ant closely as he utilizes the same screen twice, remaining firmly at his side and even blocking a mid-range jumper. In offenses that prefer to engage movement shooters, he's the primary chaser and excels at remaining close around screens to complicate matters. Here's an excellent example against James Harden, where he follows him over the top of a handoff. And when Harden attempts to put him in jail, he recovers to reposition himself, then reaches for the ball. As I mentioned, he spends a significant amount of time guarding the primary ball handlers of the opposing team, which could involve defending against a pick-and-roll ball handler, an isolation player, or a movement shooter. The aim is for the Kings to have him exert as much effort as possible to eliminate a key offensive source. However, there are moments when he finds himself switched off the ball or in a position to assist, and his activity truly stands out. Naturally, he possesses the length and hands to disrupt passing lanes. What I appreciate most, though, is his awareness and timing when rotating to contest drives or tagging on rolls, followed by the speed with which he recovers to the perimeter during closeouts. While he's not a game-changing team defender who provides a lot of rim protection, this definitely isn't a flaw. So when evaluating the entirety of his defensive abilities, it's evident how much he contributes to the team's defense. In terms of perimeter isolations, pick and rolls, or off-screen situations, he ranks among the league's elite. When he's switched off the ball, he remains active, engaged, and aware as a team defender. I will point out that his lack of true versatility as a man defender and his minimal involvement in the paint hinder his chances of being a Defensive Player of the Year. Still, in his role with the Kings, I believe he could garner some all-defensive recognition, especially if he maintains significant playing time. Regarding the offense, I previously noted that it's largely about maintaining the status quo. He's not the kind of player who will elevate the team's scoring significantly, but he also won't be someone who diminishes value. Most of his offensive time is spent doing one of two things. He creates a lot of turnovers and contributes to defensive stops. He also participates actively in transition play, and in half-court situations, he primarily spots up and makes sound decisions off the catch. More often than not, that decision is to shoot, and we now have a solid sample showing he's a genuinely capable and dependable shooter since entering the league. He has attempted 303 three-pointers and boasts an impressive 42% success rate. While there isn't much versatility, and many of his shots are open looks, he has consistently demonstrated he's not a player that defenses can overlook. For the Kings, that's precisely what they need. They already have one of the best playmaking bigs in Sabonis and two all-star caliber offensive cornerstones in Fox and DeRozan. Additionally, they've got Malik Monk, who is a near-elite playmaker. So, the creation responsibilities are mostly managed. As long as he can spot up and make shots, he will fit into the offense, which is where Keon Ellis excels. Therefore, moving forward, it would be surprising if he doesn't land a role as either a full-time starter or play around 30 minutes per game. Consider the type of player coming off the bench, just examine the statistical profile he's beginning to compile. Excluding garbage time, over the past 2 seasons, the Kings have utilized Ellis for more than 1,500 minutes, during which they've achieved a net rating of +7. In contrast, without him on the court for over 3,600 minutes, that number declines significantly to 0.9. A proficient outside shooter capable of transforming games defensively is precisely the kind of player any contender would dream of acquiring. As long as the Kings retain him, they should maximize his value. If you liked this analysis, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and activate post notifications to be among the first to see new content. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Ellis in the comments. As always, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one.